Welcome to Legacy Boxing Showcase, sponsored by Legacy Boxing Promotions, Pettis Collision. Ed Nunez along with Austin Colleen. And Austin, you mentioned Pettis Collision. You know, they are the sponsors of this show. Inundated with hail-damaged cars. You know, my car happened to be in the middle of that severe hailstorm. And I've lived in Albuquerque 56 years. And my wife and I were at a restaurant with my godson. My wife's car got damaged. And wow, you know, all that sound, I mean, that was severe.
Oh.
So, you know, we talk about Pettis Collision a lot, but they do some great work out there. And you mentioned they're so busy right now, but, you know, call them. They'll do great work for you.
They did my car twice, so I'm embarrassed.
Oh, for the hail?
No, it was my skill driving.
Oh, well, that's another subject. Austin, another subject for another show, but give Pettis Collision a call. They do some great work out there. You know, Austin, some interesting things that happen in boxing, and one of the things we talked about on the mic with Mike Adams Saturday, 6:10, 11 a.m., 1 p.m., was the boxer, when getting ready for the fight, walks out of the ring. I mean, I don't know if you heard about that. I think you did.
Yeah,
but we've seen things. You know, we talked about that. We've seen Fan Man, you know, the Holyfield, Tyson biting Holyfield's ear. We've seen a lot of things in boxing. Had you ever seen anything like that?
Never. And I would assume he'll probably be banned for life. You know, what a time to pull a stunt like that. You know, the day before, if he thought his paycheck wasn't large enough, but to walk out of the ring after, and after they have rung the bell.
So they did the introductions. They had the weigh-in. We have Josh Pitbull, Torres as our guest in our next segment. But you did everything, right? And then you're lathered up. I guess he's warmed up. He's got the gloves on. And then he climbs out of the ring. And I guess you can make statements, right? But why do that then? And it was funny when I was watching the replay, and they show him walking out, and there's some fans to the side of him like, where are you going? So you've never seen that. You've seen some strange things in boxing too.
In my second pro fight, I got into the ring without a protector cup. So I had to go back and get it. Well, I walked out of the ring, and no one's telling the audience, so they just thought I did what he did. They were all booing me. And this was my hometown.
Yeah.
And then I came back in the ring about 8 minutes later.
Oh, when you got your equipment.
Right.
Man, that is some crazy stuff. But I'd never seen that before. And yes, as you mentioned, that fighter will probably never see the inside of a ring again, and he shouldn't. Austin, we wanted to talk about your escapades in the ring. You sparred some more last week, and you mentioned. You tell me about who you go in the ring against. I know Ray De La Cruz a couple weeks ago. You went in there with him, and you went in and you said you got your elbow hurt a little bit.
Robert Lujan, he's Christian Castillo's stepfather. So we sparred a week ago, and we're sparring, and all of a sudden my elbow's killing me. So I don't know how. I mean, obviously he wasn't aiming for my elbow, but I don't know how it happened. So he's kind of put me on the shelf.
Oh, so you've got to take a step back for a while.
Well, I got to. Yesterday I hiked in the mountains, but today my elbow's sore again. So I've been trying to get back into it. So
that you're even in there, we're not going to say your age. You can say that if you want to. Is amazing to me when I think about it. I saw the fighter, the guy that likes fights where I work at today, and. He's in phenomenal shape. When I even hit him a couple of these guys, his stomach and he does his table work. There's no doubt. So that you're even doing that is amazing to me, and I sure love hearing about it every week when you tell me. I love hearing about it. And you mentioned controlling your breathing, the distance, things like that people don't know.
Well, the most fun I get out of it is when the last bell rings. I'm not kidding anybody.
Yeah, well, you know what? You're getting some you're not really, plugging yourself, and I'm sure you're not just taking and without striking back.
Well, when I sparred Mike Alderete, oh my God, I missed him with a jab, and in my mind I said, oh my, bang, bang, my head went back twice because the distance was fine for him. So there's a lot to it.
Yeah. A couple weeks before we have Triple G versus Canelo Alvarez, your initial thoughts, the first fight ended in a draw. Since then, Alvarez suspended for eating tainted beef. Now they're going to go at it again September 15th. Your quick thoughts on that fight?
Well, I feel that Triple G might be post-prime. He's fought a long time, and he's in his mid-30s. And Canelo's young. Canelo might be even a better performance this time. And Triple G may find that the clock's working against him. I consider 5 levels of boxing: beginner, pre-prime, prime when you're at your best, post-prime, and end of your career.
Most to lose, I think, Canelo. Canelo has more to lose than Triple G. Triple G's 36 on the downside of 37. And fighters with that kind of age and fights behind them normally see their better days. But Triple G might also feel like, hey, I've got something to prove because I really feel like I've won that fight. And we'll talk more with Josh Pitbull Torres in the next segment. We'll be back to Legacy Boxing Showcase after these messages.
The Barley Room, a proud sponsor of Proview Networks for over 9 years, is pleased to introduce Black Iron Catering. From weddings and family reunions to birthdays and office parties, Black Iron Catering is perfect for any event. Contact Jamie at 505-459-8259 and book your event today. Black Iron Catering. Let us bring our kitchen to you.
Car Crafters, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened? Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
Duke City Sports Bar, proud supporter of Proview Sports and New Mexico Youth Athletics. Catch all the sports action from high school, college, pros, and MMA on one of our 35 HD TVs. Start your night off right with any selection from our delicious menu prepared with fresh, never frozen ingredients. Duke City Sports Bar, Albuquerque's newest sports bar. Located on Eubank and Montgomery, dial 505-433-4020.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number 1. Cover it with green stuff, 1 scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of Proview Sports Network. Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Locally loved restaurants like Farina Pizzeria, Farina Alto, and the Artichoke Cafe are the perfect venue for your next event. Farina Alto has traditional Italian food, plus handcrafted cocktails in a beautiful Northeast Heights location. Farina Pizzeria with a downtown vibe, amazing affordable wines, and local beer. And the Artichoke Cafe has set the standard for casual fine dining since 1989. Visit our family of restaurants and see what fine dining is all about.
Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms, and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rollins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales. The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide Coaches Award Program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game.
Welcome back to Legacy Boxing Showcase, sponsored by Legacy Boxing Promotions, Pettis Collision. Ed Nunez, along with Austin Colleen, now joined by New Mexico welterweight champion Josh Pitbull Torres. And once again, great to have you on the show, Josh. We had a great article in the Journal written by Rick Wright last week about your experience with Danny Garcia and the sparring and everything that you did with him, and that's why we brought you on. Definitely want to hear about that. I'm going to turn it over to Austin, who's got some questions for you.
Well, I talked to Rick this morning, and he actually loves to write about boxing, and now that he's semi-retired, he gets to do just that. So he was excited about covering your fight, and he's looking forward to seeing you in action again. I just thought I'd pass that on. So now you were out in Philadelphia training with Danny Garcia, and in the history of boxing, some like Mike Tyson and Floyd Patterson had reputations. They were pretty tough to work for, where Ingemar Maria Hansen and Muhammad Ali basically took it easy on their sparring partners. So how do you categorize Danny Garcia?
He's definitely going in there with bad intentions. I mean, that's what they're paying me to do, so it's understandable. I knew that coming in. So I knew that he was going to bring the heat, so I had to bring that fire with it.
And I read in Rick's excellent article that you tried to mimic his opponent to some degree.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely want to try to give him the work that he needs. I wanted to give him a look that I feel he was going to see on fight night, so we definitely were bringing the pressure, trying to come in a little reckless at times, to just give him some different looks, to just give him what he's going to expect on fight night, and that way he'll be able to have success in the ring.
Was it you're just yourself, Josh, that they brought in? I'm sure they brought in some other fighters. How did this work out? In other words, you go in there for 3 rounds and an ex-fighter goes in for 5 or 3. How does it work out for people that don't know?
Yeah, well, what it is they usually bring in 2 sparring partners at a time. So the whole time I was there in camp, there was either 2 or 3 sparring partners alongside with me. So we'd share the rounds. Tuesdays we do 6 rounds. Thursdays we do 8 rounds. Saturday we do either 10 or 12 rounds. And like you mentioned, we just divided amongst the fighters and keep just switching out, just so we can always have a fresh partner in with him. That way he's getting different looks and at the same time pushing his conditioning.
Boy, that's putting in some work. Go ahead, Austin.
In fighting Sean Porter, I don't think it would be a good career move to just stay in the ropes all the time. So is he working on some offense as well?
No, definitely. He's using a lot of movement. He's using angles, boxing, everything that he needs to use to be successful on fight night. And, we're bringing the best out of him. We're pressuring him, trying to pin him on the ropes, put him in the corner, and, throw those lunging hooks. But he was doing a good job of defending it and countering back.
Well, I remember talking to you a few weeks back, and you mentioned in terms of risk versus reward, I hope I'm quoting you right, but you thought Sean Porter might be the most dangerous fighter out there. In that
regard. And I still stand by that. I feel like he's one of the most underrated yet dangerous fighters, and I feel like this is a very risky fight for Garcia, and I give him a lot of props for taking it because he probably didn't have to. He probably could have taken a more suitable opponent for his style, but he's getting in there to test himself, and I'm excited to see, what the results will be.
Well, to back up what you just said, Porter's 2 losses. One was a split decision. No, it was unanimous, but it was a 2-point difference, and the other was a majority loss. So, he's never been outclassed.
Not at all. He's always been in tough fights. He's always, been against, world-class fighters. So, you have to give credit to a fighter like that who's always in there. He's a dog in that ring, definitely.
Now, the sparring, when you spar with Danny Garcia, you got the headgear on, right? Everybody's got the headgear, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, people may not know that. I know that. I've seen sparring, when TV and how they spar. I've never been to a live sparring, but you've got the headgear. So did Angel Garcia, Danny's father, say, Josh, here's what I want you to work on, X fighter, I want you to work on this? Did Angel Garcia have a plan for you to work with Danny Garcia? Did he have a specific plan like, Josh, this is what I want you to work on with Danny?
Surprisingly, no. He told me to be myself. When I came in, I kind of thought that they'd expect something of me, but I think they just brought me in on the fact that I was going to bring pressure regardless. But, you know, from day one, he just said, hey, go in there, be yourself. I don't want you to be Sean Porter. I want you to just be the best you that you can be. And that's what I did. I just came forward, I applied pressure, and I think it brought out the best pit bull in the ring and the best Danny Garcia.
That's the other question I was going to ask you. It's obviously about Danny Garcia and his preparation for Sean Porter, right? It's about that, and you know that. You know, I know sparring partners have gotten cut, you know, from camp if they go in trying to be about them. I know it's about Danny Garcia, but what can Josh Pitbull and what did Josh Pitbull Torres learn about that? I mean, you're in with the world champ there. What did you learn from your own game going forward? You know, you spent how many rounds with Danny? How many rounds did you spend?
Well over 50, maybe 60 rounds.
So what did Josh Pitbull Torres get out of those 50 rounds?
Well, I got out of it just the fact that I belong at that level. I feel like I was right there with him the whole time, pushing him to his potential. So, I mean, it's nothing new to me. I feel like I've been in the ring with world-class fighters before. We have a handful of world-class fighters here in our own state, in Fidel Maldonado, Brian Mendoza, you know, Hector Munoz, these guys that have pushed me throughout my career and my sparring, I feel like have bettered me to be able to perform at that level when I did step in the ring with Danny Garcia.
So judging by what you're saying, and I think we've all been there. You know, you wanted to go up against the best, right? So where you feel you're at, it's like, hey, you know, I'm right there. It makes you hungry for more, I'm sure. Absolutely. Because you're going against a world champion, you're thinking, hey, you know, I hung some too. He banged me, but I banged him back.
Absolutely, and just coming off of a great win at the Route 66 Casino, winning the New Mexico State welterweight title, I just have the momentum on my side. So I brought that into training, and I hope to continue it into my camp coming forward, finishing off the year strong, and just, you know, like I said, using that momentum to better my career.
Well, that's awesome, Austin.
When another outstanding fighter that you've sparred with is Austin Trout. Trout's a little bigger than Danny Garcia. How would you describe sparring with Austin Trout versus Danny?
Well, it's definitely two different styles. Austin Trout, of course, is more of a boxer. Of course, he's a southpaw. So when I was getting ready to fight Zab Judah is when I was working with Austin Trout. So he was using his movement. He's a lot longer than Danny Garcia, maybe a little faster, but Danny Garcia is definitely going in there with a lot more pop in his punch. He's definitely trying to hurt me a lot more. I feel like Austin Trout was, you know, trying to work with me. And of course, it was expected going in the ring with Danny Garcia that he would try to do those things because they are paying for it at the end of the day.
Well, I love the way Louis Burke, his trainer, worked with you in Austin, but Austin was cooperating because they were trying to help you for your fight with Zab Judah. I remember he was teaching you how to throw a left to his Trout's body so he couldn't move to his right. He didn't even care if it landed. It was your second punch he was trying to get in. Now they do that with Danny Garcia, some type of approach that would make it a little more difficult for him.
They were giving me pointers at Danny Garcia's camp because they were focused on their fight. When I was in camp with Austin Trout, of course, they were trying to give me pointers because I was the one that needed the work.
Right.
And Austin Trout's always been that kind of fighter. Ever since I was an amateur and he would work with me, you know, he'd be giving me pointers, you know, in the middle of the round. So I think that's why I've been such a good sparring partner in the past because I've had guys like Austin Trout help me, so I'm just trying to lend the helping hand as well.
I think that's important to remember. You fought Zab Judah. You know, you've been in with world champs, world contenders. That's one of the things we talked about, you know, melees in the ring on 610 on Saturday when Zab Judah and Mayweather fought, and then Roger Mayweather, and there's a big brawl in the ring. So, you know, it's not as if you haven't been in with those kind of caliber of fighters. But I think one of the things you mentioned is so important is momentum. Because after that fight at Route 66, again, it was probably the fight of the year. And man, you know, and when everybody sees you, you probably hear, hey, champ, what a fight. So personally, you have to feel great about it, right? Personally. Now, professionally, there's still development to develop, and you see that. You see that there's still room to grow. But boy, you saying that you can see yourself in that ring with a Danny Garcia, New Mexico fans are gonna be like, hey, Josh, man, what's next? Because when people want to see you get that world, you're 505, man.
Absolutely.
People want to see you get that world. New Mexico loves their boxers here. Saw the way they treated Romero and Danny Romero and Johnny Tapia, Holly Holm, Sean McClain, Bobby Foster. It goes back.
Definitely, and that's one thing that I love about our home state of New Mexico is that we have such a great support system in the fight community, and it's great to be a part of it. And as you mentioned, I'm just excited to move forward, and I'm knocking at that door of world-class fights, and I hope that the phone will ring and we'll get that opportunity to go out there and shine and put New Mexico back on the map where we belong.
I think the other thing is this, and Austin, I'll turn it over to you right after this, but you're sparring with the Danny Garcia. So Danny Garcia says, hey, I got a guy that's ready to fight right now, right? I mean, Angel says that. Angel Garcia, he's the one that's, the manager. So he says, I know a guy right now. So, that guy can step in right now. So that definitely doesn't hurt either, I'm sure.
It doesn't. And that's, one of the main benefits that we get from going out to those camps out of state. We just want to build connections, build bridges so that we can, build relationships with fighters outside of the state, promoters outside of the state, and, matchmakers out of the state. That way we can get these bigger fights for not only myself, but for all the up-and-coming fighters that are here in New Mexico.
Who were some of the other sparring partners he had when you were in Philly?
When I was there was Leonardo Tyner, who's a veteran in himself. He's fought Canelo. He's fought a lot of big names. He's always been a come-forward fighter. Another guy was Shaq. He's another veteran that everybody was bringing the pressure to him. A couple weeks later, they brought in a younger guy by the name of Daniel Gonzalez from New York, who brought a little more bounce in his step, the way Sean Porter bounces around a lot, a little more energetic. So as far as I know, I mean, he's had all the work that he needs to be successful on Fight Night.
Potentially, depending on what happens, he could actually be a future opponent for you. You're both welterweights and you're both young enough. Does that ever cross your mind when you're working with him? Or?
It does, but there's so many fighters in the welterweight division that it's very unlikely.
Right.
But if the opportunity arises, I mean, who knows? We're always willing to step up and get in the ring with the best of them.
Well, Ed mentioned jab judo. That was a fight that made me heartbroken because obviously I went over to your trainer and gave him an envelope full of money to bet.
Yeah.
It never happened.
Well, there was a lot of people upset that night. I feel like there would have been a lot of winners that night, coming from our hometown that were betting on me. And we were definitely ready to shock the world that night, just something that never unfolded. God has a bigger plan for us, and that's all I got to trust in.
I think that's the most important thing for you is your faith to see, even after the fight against Cabral, those words that we mentioned earlier on the show a couple weeks ago, it's not just about you. You see a bigger picture. And I think the other thing is that you want to pay it forward or down, to the fighters coming up after you as it was done for you. And that's important, right? You need Hector Munoz was on the show too. That's a great guy, right?
Absolutely.
He's a sparring partner for a lot of people. He helped you, and you recognize that. You remember that. And even after you fought Cabral, I mean, I saw the weigh-in. The weigh-in made me laugh, man, because you guys were like, all right.
Yeah.
I don't know what was said. But I'm laughing because he's like, okay, and I could say, okay, you guys are both pointing, and it's on, right? It's on,
absolutely.
And it was. But afterward, hey, all goodwill, right?
It's always been that way in the fight game. You do what you do to promote a fight. You want to hype it up. You want people to be excited to come in, to the show, willing to see a good fight. And that's what we did. We hyped them up. We gave them what they wanted. And afterwards, it's all class. It's all respect. Matter of fact, maybe even more respect than we had for each other before we entered the ring.
I don't see how you couldn't because, like I said, when you're banging each other like that, and what an ending. 1 second left. 1 second left. The referee did a tremendous job. It reminded me of when Richard Steele stopped the fight with Meldrick Taylor and Julio Cesar Chavez. I remember that fight in 1990. I still remember it like it was yesterday.
3 seconds.
Lou Duva comes in going crazy, man. Lou Duva went crazy. Made the right. Look at Meldrick Taylor today, man. Meldrick Taylor unfortunately can't speak. He can barely, faculties aren't there like Wilfred Benitez. Benitez was an incredible defensive fighter. Nobody ever hit the guy. Now today he's the vegetable, man. It's unfortunate.
It is.
It's unfortunate. But again, what a great fight that was. We got about 5 minutes left. You know what? I wanted to ask you, but what you think coming up, Triple G and Canelo Alvarez, September 15th, round, match 2, number 2. The first fight ended in a very, what I consider, controversial draw. What do you think coming up? That's September 15th, just around the corner.
Yeah, it's going to be a great fight. I'm really excited for the rematch. I'm a little biased in this fight because I've always been a Triple G fan. I fought on one of his undercards back in 2013 at the Madison Square Garden.
Oh, wow.
So I've always been a huge fan of Triple G. I was rooting for him big time in the first fight. I feel like he did enough to win in the first fight. But coming into the second fight, I got to be honest, I'm a little worried. I feel like Canelo's youth might play to its advantage. I feel like he has a little more in his toolbox to sharpen up. I feel like he can do a little bit more boxing than he did. And I think he just has a little more to offer, a little more adjustments that he can make as opposed to Triple G, who you guys mentioned earlier, is almost on his way out. I feel like he's somewhat one-dimensional. I think Canelo's going to see the same Triple G that he saw in the first fight. So I think that's going to play a huge factor in it. But again, I'm rooting for Triple G, so we'll see what happens.
Awesome.
The week before the Triple G fight, there's another pretty exciting fight. And I think we talked about one of the participants. What do you think on that fight?
You're talking about Danny Garcia and Sean Porter?
Exactly.
Well, I'll tell you right now, being in the ring with Danny Garcia, I know he's ready. And I know that Sean Porter is going to bring it. I think it's going to be a very exciting fight. I think it's all going to be about who, has the better night. I really feel like Danny Garcia can use his boxing. And, man, the guy has pop in his punch. No matter how much I push him in those ropes, bang him to the body, he always digs the way out of it. He always fights back. So at the end of the day, he's more than a boxer. He's a fighter. And I give him a lot of credit for the way he fights. So I feel like he's going to have his hand raised at the end of the night on September 8th.
I think back to a fighter in the 60s, Dick Tiger.
Oh,
He's built like a piece of cement.
Yeah.
And you actually have a build, like that. I mean, so how does he compare in strength to you? Not that it's a weightlifting contest, but...
Right. Well, he's a little bit taller. He's maybe a little skinnier bone structure-wise. I feel like he has the body of a junior welterweight. I feel like I'm a little thicker in bone structure. I feel like if I wanted to, I could probably move up to 154. I probably don't have the height for it, but I feel like I'm a little stronger physically. But like I said, he has some pop in his punch, and it's going to be interesting to see how the fight plays out.
You think, though, as far as we got about a minute left, as far as what Danny Garcia's preparation and what all the preparation work he's done, again, Sean Porter is a tough customer. So, it could go either way. I'm sure the odds are either way.
Oh, yeah.
But you think at the end of the night, it'll be Danny?
I truly feel Danny Garcia is going to pull out the victory. I think he has a little more options that'll play out. Just like I've mentioned earlier about the Canelo fight, I feel like Danny Garcia just has a little bit more tools that he can use in that ring, and I feel like he's going to be successful.
One more quick question before you turn it off. I'm sure you were out there 10 days?
I was out there for a little over 10 days, close to 2 weeks.
Must have been great to be back home. I know you're a big family man. It must have been great to be back home.
Oh, it's just great to be home with the family, with my people, just to be here eating the New Mexico food. I mean, I missed it all being away, but I mean, Philadelphia was fun. It was great to me. But you know how it is. There's no place like home.
But especially New Mexico. We're native New Mexicans. Austin, one last parting shot before we close it out.
How are the living conditions? You mentioned that you were near the gym where you stayed.
It was humbling. I'll be quite honest with you. Yeah,
I didn't expect that answer.
Yeah, it makes you appreciate coming back home and realizing all the things that you have. It definitely makes you grateful to be, in the position that I'm in. So it was definitely, an eye-opener. And,
Tough section of town.
It was pretty tough. It's where he grew up. It's not one of the richest sections of Philadelphia. There are nice parts of Philadelphia. I mean, it has its ups and downs just like anywhere else. But where we were, it's definitely humbling to be in that area.
Josh Pitbull Torres, New Mexico welterweight champion. Continued success, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again for being on the show. We appreciate it. For Austin Killeen, producer Josh Brown, I'm Ed Nunez. We'll be back in 2 weeks for another episode of Legacy Boxing Showcase.